Good evening, lovely people. My name is Callum. I'm representing Team Coppish. I'm delighted to be joined by Rams, Bizzo, and Stro. And this is the first edition of that Liverpool show. You've had other teams have their show. Now it's time for the champions to come on this channel and represent ourselves. So sit back, enjoy. And today we're going to be speaking about that game that no Liverpool fan wants to ever revisit. You know which game I'm talking about. I'm not even going to say the scoreline. Stay tuned, people. That little laugh from Terry, just as the intro music, it kind of makes me shiver because that's how I can imagine he reacted after that game on Sunday. First and foremost, guys, how you all doing?
Good, man.
Good. All good.
Good. Inaugural Liverpool show. Welcome, people. So, I've been tasked today with speaking to you guys about the game against Aston Villa where we lost by a 5-goal margin, 7-2. And people are asking the question, is that the worst defeat in Premier League history? Now, obviously, there's banter and then there's serious talk. So we're going to do a little bit of both on this show. I'm just going to start off and read off some of the biggest Premier League defeats by scoreline. So you've got Tottenham 9, Wigan 1 back in 2009. Manchester United 8, Arsenal 2 back in 2011. Arsenal 7, Newcastle 3 back in 2012. You have Manchester United 9, Ipswich Town 0 in 1995. Blackburn Rovers 7, Sheffield Wednesday 2 back in 97. Man United again beating Nottingham Forest in 99, 8-1. Tottenham beating Southampton 7-2 in 2000. Middlesbrough in 2008 beating Manchester City 8-1. And you also have 7-2 result from Man City versus Stoke in 2017. So after reeling off some of those results, it's obvious that people aren't asking the question in terms of the scoreline and the actual margin of the defeat. I think what's really got to people is the fact that it's Liverpool who have just won the title and they've been beaten by a team who last season just narrowly escaped relegation. So, Stro, I'm going to come to you first and just initial thoughts. I'm going to speak about half-time, and the score at half-time was 4-1, right? What were your thoughts at half-time? Did you think it would get any worse? Did you expect to see us come out differently in the second half? What were you really thinking at half-time?
The problem for me was how easy they seemed to be getting at us. Barkley could have had 3 or 4 in the first half, which isn't great. If he'd have had his shooting boots on, he literally could have had a hat-trick in the first half. Watkins could have had a few more. And there was a bit of me, and this is ludicrous, but there was a bit of me where I was actually quite pleased it wasn't 5 or 6 at half-time because it should have been, and it could have been.
Yeah.
The thing...
Oh, yeah, we're back, Stro. Go on, bro.
Yo. Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Can you hear us, Stro? Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Yeah. So the thing is, for me, the
Oh, Stro's gone again. All right, Bizzo, we'll come to you. Biz.
Yeah. So, I'll mirror what Stro's saying. Definitely, I think it could have been a hell of a lot more. I think it's obviously. I don't think it's the worst Premier League defeat in the history of the Premier League. I think it's one of the biggest shocks that you probably would have imagined, and that obviously bears into the fact that the Premier League champions have been beaten 7-2 to, as you said, relegation candidates last season, and ones that stayed in the league by the skin of the teeth. I genuinely think we played appallingly bad in terms of a defensive performance. We did miss a couple of players, I'd have said as well. But there were a couple of players for me that were really off the boil. That really cost us, particularly at the back. I think defensively we were shocking, and I think we completely exploited our high line. and managed to get through it at every opportunity, which as a team like ours, you shouldn't be allowing them to do that personally. But
Indeed, we thought that going back over the memories of the game got a bit too much
yeah,
for
he
you,
went
so
for a
you came
cry.
off. But we got
Just
you
a
back.
little bit.
Rams, what are your thoughts on the game and how things played out and the result ultimately?
Yeah, I'd have to echo what both of you said. It's lucky that it wasn't a lot higher than it was. It's just, I look back on it, it was about 3 of the goals were deflections, and I'm like, if you got to them a little bit closer, you would have blocked it properly. And that's how I see every single deflected shot. If you don't close them down basically you're not closing them down properly. So it's just defensive mishaps, frailties a little bit. And yeah, I think the heads were just gone. Like what Klopp said, the heads were gone, which you don't associate with the Liverpool side.
Indeed, I think that's what the most painful thing about that result is that is what a Klopp side looks like, especially this Liverpool Klopp side, and I think that's probably what made it the most difficult thing to comprehend, even happening, let alone seeing it unfold before our eyes. So I've got to speak about the rival supporters. So obviously, when we lose games, it's always a laugh and a joke because we've lost what I think is it 4 games in the last 80. So we have got a fantastic record in the Premier League over the last couple of years. But ultimately, with success comes people who are going to want to see you fall. And again, we're all sports fans, we're all rivals. So if I see a rival team lose, I'm going to laugh. And likewise, if a rival team sees us lose, they're going to laugh, and rightly so. What would you say to some of the haters who are coming out and just literally having a laugh? Do you think it's warranted, or do you think that's just part and parcel of football? So, Stroh, I'll come to you first on this one.
I think after that result, it's definitely warranted, 100%. But when you look at the bigger picture, we've lost, like you said, 4 games in the past 80. There's no one that can really talk to us. And the reason why it hurt me so much was, one, I've probably not been that wound up since the 3-0 Crystal Palace game. But like you said, the manner of the defeat is one thing. The fact that when it goes to 3-1 and you see people's heads down, you don't associate that with a Klopp team. But if we won that game, we'd have gone 8 points clear of Manchester City already, who everyone pipped us, or everyone pipped them to beat us to the title this season. That would have been a huge, huge psychological battle for them. And then obviously you've got the Manchester United result. Obviously City dropped points at Leeds. It was just set for it to be a perfect weekend for us, and yeah, it just wasn't our day. But obviously I've been on the show with rival fans like Kai and the Chelsea fans and
good old
Arsenal
Kai,
fans.
good old Kai.
And it's like, obviously hearing the historical Leicester and all nonsense like that, I understand it. It's an envious position for them to be in. They don't want to see us succeed. They don't want us to be this good. So when we get an off night and a bad result like that, it's going to stand out. But let them try and come talk to us. We'll have this conversation at the end of the season. I still think we're going to win the league, and I'm fully going to back the team. So you look at, we've added Jota, Thiago's got to come back. Don't get me wrong, Everton look great. Ancelotti's a fantastic manager, but how long are they going to sustain that? Whereas we've been in title races, we've been there, and we were dominant last season. So yeah, I mean, let them say whatever they want.
Rabs, I'll come to you next. So in terms of just sort of putting down a marker, obviously, if we, as Stroh just said, if we'd won that game, we would have really opened the gap up with Man City. Obviously, we didn't. But again, the manner of the defeat kind of throws the question I'm going to ask you in a different direction. Because of the manner we've lost this game, do you think that teams will now look at us and sort of lose that fear factor that they were starting to get when they play Liverpool?
I guess so. I think so. I think over the last couple of weeks since lockdown, people have started to not be a little bit more brave with us. They started to attack us a lot more, exploit the wing backs as much as possible. So yeah, I think opposition teams do have that a bit of confidence going up against us, but I wouldn't be as worried about it because I think Jurgen Klopp will do something. I think he might tweak the system a little bit just to make it a little bit more solid, because he is a shrewd manager. He's a shrewd tactician at the end of the day. That's really it. I think, they are a little bit brave, but we got a really good manager that can sort that out for us.
Fair enough. Bizzo, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question, but before I do, I'm just going to read off some of the stats from the game. So, in terms of shots, Villa had 18, Liverpool had 14. Shots on target, Villa had 11, Liverpool had 8. Possession, Liverpool edged at 70 to 30%. Completed passes, Liverpool had 650 to Aston Villa's 285. Pass accuracy, Liverpool's was 85% to Villa's 68%. We conceded more fouls, 10 to 7. No red cards, obviously. Yellow cards, they had 2, we had 1. Offsides, they had 2, we had 1. And we had 7 corners to their 2. So I've read out these stats. And then if I now put it into the context of the game, I'm going to ask this, not trying to be cynical or try and mask over the result. But is this a game we can just sort of look at and say, this was an anomaly, it will never happen again, and it was just one of those games where that could have happened to anyone, but we were just on the receiving end?
Yeah, definitely. It's not like the majority of the comments of the 7-2 and the defeat and things like that is because they think like this is it now. This is the downfall of the team. This is where everything goes wrong. This is where the wheels fall off. This is where we get beat week in, week out. And it's not the case. For me, we played the wrong tactics against that team. We played a really high line, and they exploited it in the sense that they used pace to get behind it. And every time they did that, they succeeded with it because we weren't expecting it. When we play teams, whether it's at Anfield or away from home, like Aston Villa in normal circumstances, they sit back, they put 10 men in the box, they let us overcrowd the box, and they hope to just get us on one counter or a set piece, and that's how they sneak. They would aim to sneak a result. Villa came out and played against it, and I don't think we were ready. We were ready for it. The stats still say that. Statistically, we didn't really play that bad from a statistic point of view. But then, as Ram was saying, 3 of the goals were massive deflections. They weren't even. I mean, the chances of that alone happening in one game is slim to none as it is. You never really see more than one deflected goal in a game. I mean, obviously the defensive errors. Adrian gave away the first goal, which obviously doesn't put you in good stead, and we weren't as clinical in front of goal as we normally are. Martinez pulled off a few good saves as well. It's just one of them. I mean, I'd be the same. I'd do a bit of gloating if my rival team got beat, but at the end of the day, it doesn't happen a lot. So they just have to run with it as and when it does happen, and get the most out of it. Because then when we win the next 4 on the bounce or whatever, then they won't be able to say anything then.
Because realistically, what have they had to cheer about for the past couple of years, really?
Us missing out on the league by a point.
I've got something to add on rival fans.
We still talk about Gerrard's slip now.
Exactly.
We still talk about it.
I've got something to add upon that.
Go on, Rams.
The rival thing, yeah. These rival fans have been going off this whole thing for so long, saying, "Oh, the last time Klopp won the league and had this bad of a situation with Dortmund, they were in the relegation zone." Well, actually, if you do your facts, when you first won the league with Borussia Dortmund, I said this to Stroh as well, they dropped 12 points. And then the next about 25 games, they ended up winning and drawing most of them. And they ended up winning the league a second time. So if you want to play that card...
win the league.
Sorry?
He shouldn't even win that German league with Bayern Munich. They're strong every single year.
Exactly.
It's an absolute farmers league.
So you can say all this stuff about Klopp is not doing well with his club. Well, Klopp isn't an idiot. He can sort this out. He is one of the best managers in the world, and everyone's just jealous that we have him. It's simple as that.
No,
mate, they used to play that. Remember when we drew against West Brom and we did that? Holding hands.
Stood at the Kop.
All the shite we used to get for that, and then they look back at it now as like one of the building blocks as to why we're so successful. It's just part and parcel of football. This result could drive on Liverpool to just not lose another game all season. They were sloppy when they came back when we'd pretty much won the league during the coronavirus period, and they screwed the Reds on, won the league, and then we weren't that great afterwards. And towards the end of the season, didn't get the 100 points, but it's the same now. That team will bounce back from it. They'll not want to be embarrassed like that ever again, and Klopp certainly won't want to be embarrassed like that ever again, because that's what it was. It was embarrassing. Everyone's embarrassed about it. We don't even really want to talk about it on here now.
I didn't want to talk about it, but Terry's asked me to. And it's the first show, so I thought I'd do him a solid. I'm gonna bring in Drifty, who's also part of Team Coppish, who's very passionate about this subject. Drift, take the floor. What's your thoughts on everything that's been said by rival fans and the result?
Just before I forget to touch on what Ram just said. Klopp also got to a cup final and finished in Europe that season. So all this, he nearly got them relegated. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's literally the biggest pile of crap ever. So let the haters hate. On the statistics you just read out, if you heard those statistics about the score, you think Liverpool won the game 4-0 or 3-0 or something like that. So it also shows the only real thing with that game was the naivety, innit? It was the naivety of thinking we could continue to play offside and that Aston Villa wouldn't keep realising they've worked out how to exploit and we're letting them exploit it. So it's just one of them games that goes down where you're like, you know what, Klopp? Maybe the arrogance that has slightly creeped into a certain man who, I've said to you before, Cal, I think Van Dijk, a few other players, they are showing a little bit of arrogance because we are so much better than everyone. That it might be that wake-up call to like, all right, you know, we can't just go down to Aston Villa or we can't just go and play a Leeds and just think we're going to... Because if you look at the Leeds performance, you look at the Villa performance, in comparison to the Chelsea and Arsenal performance, straight away, you know, mentally, we were on it. We battered Arsenal and we dominated Chelsea because we were mentally on it. The Leeds game, they took us by surprise because we don't know how they play. First game they've ever played in the Premier League. And maybe we did think, we don't really need to play that hard against Villa today. It's Villa. And we got a bit complacent or a bit arrogant. Do you know what I mean? And that game there, it probably will awaken. It could be the worst thing for the rest of the league because it could be we don't play a high line anymore. Now how do you play against us? And we just batter everyone again like we always do. So they're laughing at us. It could be the worst thing that ever happened to them. So let them talk. Let them talk.
Drifty.
It's all they want. It's all they want is something to say bad. Apparently, Van Dijk was dribbled past for the first time in 50 games and it became front page news. Let them talk, man. Just let them talk. They've got nothing else to do. Their clubs ain't doing nothing. So they've got to talk about the only team who's doing something. It is what it is. It is what it is, man.
So all of you guys have mentioned the high line, this famous high line. So if you look at the beginning of last season when we won the league, the first game against Norwich, loads of people were up in arms saying, what's Klopp doing? Why is he playing a high line? People are getting in behind and VAR. But VAR is there to make corrections to decisions that the humans can't make correct decisions to, right? So after a few weeks and a few games, it kind of became a thing where it stopped being spoken about because if you got in behind and it was offside, then the goal was just going to get ruled out. And you saw what we did to the league. We absolutely dominated it. And playing that high line, we dominated the league from start to finish. Now, we spoke on the channel, Drift, me and you, and just to shed some light on it, I don't have a problem with the high line. The problem I have is playing the high line against every single team in the league. And just like you said, we can't just go into every game and treat it the same. Every team's different. Every team has different strengths. Every team has different weaknesses. So I'll ask, and I'll start with you, Rams. In terms of the high line, do you think it's something that Klopp will stop playing as often, or do you think he'll just take it on a game-by-game basis going forward?
I think he won't use it as often as he does every single game. I think when it comes to teams that like to play out from the back and how we like to pressure from the front, I think he may use that high line. But I think for teams that are a little bit more pragmatic and like to hoof the ball up the field, I think he would like to maintain a good distance from his centre backs to his goalkeeper. Because let's be honest, the centre backs that we have, one on one, they're they're very good. Like you don't really get past them that easily unless you do some mad skills or something like that. So yeah, I think from time to time they will use the high line against probably the big teams, but the small teams, I think he might tweak it just a little bit.
Yeah. Biz, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think he does need to. I've always said this about Liverpool in recent years, and obviously last season we played very well and beat the majority of teams we were put against. But when we do face a team like Aston Villa who give us a bit of a wake up call, we don't really have any backup tactics or contingency plans to bring into place. We have to just kind of ride out the way that we're playing, and that result is the result that we get. So I do think in that sense we do need to kind of reassess our tactical position and see if there is anything we can change, or is there anything we can spring as a bit of a surprise to teams in future, because we literally just, as Drifty was saying, we literally just carried on playing as we were, even though we were 4-1 down, and it just got worse and worse and worse for us. But that's what I think anyway. I think we do lack that kind of contingency of when something isn't going our way, which in most cases it is if we score first or we go a couple of goals up. Then if it's the other way around, we don't really have anything we can go, right, let's switch this now, let's do this, and then play this way and completely get them by surprise.
Indeed.
That's what I think.
So Stra, I'm going to come to you next. So one of the big talking points coming out of the game was Liverpool's goalkeeping situation. Now, obviously, we lost Alisson due to injury, and he'll be out for about 4 to 6 weeks. Adrian's come in. Obviously, we saw he made a mistake. So I'm not gonna pile on to Adrian. I think everything that's been said has been said. What I will ask you though is, one, will he now become a target in the same way someone like, for example, Kepa is at Chelsea? And two, do you think it will make us change the way we currently play until Alisson is back in the team?
I think we definitely need to adapt. But then again, saying that, if you look at Adrian when he came in last season, he made the mistake against Southampton, which led to the goal. Could have been caught out a few times with the balls at his feet, and nearly conceded a few goals then. And he did make mistakes for us last season. The Atletico Madrid one's obviously the most infamous one because of what it meant and what was riding on it. But Adrian has got that mistake in him, but he's a brilliant shot stopper. Do I think he'll be a target? No, I don't think he'll be that much of a target. The problem is our fan base. You've seen it with Carius. How many mistakes did he make before everyone was just like, no, this is like enough's enough for now? Do you know what I mean? Like, Liverpool fans don't notoriously just completely hang players out to dry. We're not built like that. We're a family club, so he'll make mistakes, yeah, but then we'll put our arm around him and we want the best out of him. So I don't think he'll get left hang out to dry, and I don't think that he'll be a target. He'll be the talking point from rival fans because it's a weakness which they now see that we've got, which is the first time in a long time we've got weaknesses in the team. But when you take Alisson out, who's the best goalkeeper in the world, it's going to notably drop the levels that we've got in goalkeeping. But, I mean, it was a shocking pass, but I'm just as critical of Joe Gomez for the first goal as I am for Adrian. His body positioning for me is, because if you watch the goal back, when the ball goes across, for me, he makes it so easy for Grealish to just lay the square ball into Watkins. Makes it so easy.
I hear that.
Bothered me.
I hear that. One rebuttal I will say to that. I play in defence sometimes. I'll be honest. When you get a bad ball from a goalkeeper, it completely can throw you off, and you're thinking, what's going on here? And then having to react to that. Don't get me wrong. You could even say, if you're really going to nitpick, you can say Virgil could have slid in and tried to stop the shot as well. I think ultimately you have to look at the first person who makes the mistake, who starts the domino effect. And in that particular situation, it was Adrian. And as you said, it's not the first mistake he's made that's led to goals or results. So, Drift, I'll come to you now. In terms of the Adrian situation, I know obviously we can't go and sign someone from abroad, but there are players in lower leagues, for example, Jack Butland, Ben Foster, David Raya. Do you think it's too reactionary to try and secure a goalkeeper before the 16th of October?
Not a chance. Not a chance. I don't want to come on here and start piling on him. Like you said, we've given him enough smoke. Let's leave him alone. But
We
all
are.
jokes aside, he is not good enough. Like there's bad goalkeepers and then there's bad goalkeepers. And Adrian is a bad goalkeeper. He should never even be between the sticks at Liverpool in the first place. We were forced to have to get him because of the Mignolet situation. Klopp's loyalty to Mignolet to let him go. We needed to just bring someone in, whatever. But this summer, we should have done something about it. We should have. Do you know what I mean? He reached the top of the mountain. He got a medal he was never supposed to or even thought he would get. Fair play to him. He kept going. And I'm happy for him as a person. But in terms of thinking of the best for my club, Adrian cannot play for Liverpool. He will cost us tournaments and trophies. If you really deep it, and again, I don't want to keep piling on, but sometimes it's not piling on if you're talking facts. He's the reason we lost to Chelsea in the FA Cup, and he's the reason we lost to Atletico and went out the Champions League. And obviously other things happened along the way, but he's the major reason why those things happened. A lot of his other mistakes he got away with because we won the game. There's a 3-minute compilation going around now of mistakes that Adrian has made. Do you get what I mean? Like you just have to call a spade a spade. Do you know what I mean? Like it is what it is. We need to put that 17-year-old in and just see Wagwan. You know, sometimes it can't get any worse. Real talk. Flinging that 17-year-old. Look, I've seen that brother's face. I think it's a birth certificate lie anyway. He ain't 17. So in my opinion, fling him in and just see Wagwan, because the pressure of the Merseyside derby on top of the pressure that Adrian's already feeling, I'm smelling another mistake, you know. I'm so worried. He's going to come into that game. It's a pressure game. Everton are playing well, and I can just see it now. An Adrian fumble or a dodgy kick out or some. Do you remember how the Chelsea fans were telling us that Kepa was what had them worried, and we played them, and he actually did what they told us he was going to do? That is how I'm feeling right now about Adrian. Do you get what I mean? And I feel sorry for him as a person. Of course I do. I felt sorry for Carius as a person. But at a certain time, if that's your profession, you've got to be judged for what it is. And what Adrian's doing, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Even when you look at their third goal, I think it was, where we was too high up for the free kick. It was a poor line. I don't know why they've got a free kick and we're 30 yards out. Like, I don't get the high line thing. But when you look at the ball that gets played back across, you know, Adrian could have caught the header that was played back across the... Like, he's just not a good goalkeeper. He's got no positional sense. It's so difficult to not just be really horrible, but he's just not good enough.
Yeah, but
play that 17-year-old. I saw a 2-minute clip of that 17-year-old today that looks better than all of the best bits of Adrian's whole game.
Yeah, but do you know what? Do you know what the mad thing was with Adrian in that game? There's a bit where I don't know if you remember it, where the ball gets whipped in, and I think Watkins hits the bar.
Oh bloody hell! Yeah,
he hit the crossbar. To be seen.
Bro, where was he going, bro? Where was he going?
He's going to the tunnel, mate. That's where he's going. He heard the whistle. Was like, yeah, the game's done.
Do you know what that looked like to me? Oh, I know all you lot must play computer, but I don't know if you're FIFA or Pro, man. But on Pro, there was always this thing where you would accidentally press the button while you were sprinting, and there'd be like a 3-second delay, and you couldn't cancel it. And at the end, it would always do something that you didn't want to do anymore because the moment had gone. Yeah, Adrian saw the ball coming in and thought, this is where it will land. I'll catch it here. And just didn't realize it's not going to happen anymore. So he just kept on going into the mode of catching the ball. And it was long gone. If that had gone in, do you know how embarrassing that would have been?
Yeah, I hear you. So, Biz, I'm going to ask you a very tough question. Now, Stroh mentioned his name. So we sent out another goalkeeper on loan to Union Berlin. Now, hindsight's obviously a beautiful thing. But if you could go back in time with a special machine, would you have kept Carius and made him our backup goalkeeper ahead of Adrian?
Oh, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same premise.
Sorry, the exasperation of pain there is very funny.
I just get flashback. I get flashback as soon as that name was mentioned. I was desperate for him to go, but it's the same. It's the same premise. I think the difference between Adrian and Carius, they're both very bad goalkeepers, I believe, and I think obviously it's best of a bad bunch out of the two, and I think Adrian's got where he is on merit based on he's kind of like kept us afloat through the Super Cup, through the first few games of last season where Alisson was injured, and he's as Drifty said, he got his medal. Yeah, well done, fair play kind of thing. But I don't know. That's a very hard question. That I just all I see is that Champions League final when Carius is mentioned. It just haunts me still to this day. So I'd have to say I'd stick with Adrian just based on the fact that.
All right.
How bad does that sound?
I'm gonna put.
There's no right answer, Biz. There's no right answer.
I'm gonna put this to you. I'm gonna put this to you, Rams. Rams, I'm going to put this to you. So, if I was to describe Adrian and Carius in their Liverpool terms, Carius has made the higher profile mistake, but Adrian's made the more consistent number of mistakes. So, again, just to sort of throw the question in your direction, would you want someone in between the sticks who may let you down in the final, or someone who may just let you down on a weekly basis?
From that terminology, I would go with Carius because I'm not playing him in the final. I'm playing Alisson in the final, no matter what. Even if he's injured, even if he's on a wheelchair, I'll be playing that guy. He's that good. But I don't know. They're both crap. They're both like mentality-wise. Loris Carius, I don't know where he's at because that must be haunting him every single day, that final, even if we did win the Champions League the next season and then the Premier League. But I'm trying to think of something good about him, but I can't. I honestly can't think anything good about him. That's a hard question. I can't answer that. I can't answer that question. It's too hard.
Cal, do you know what it's like? Remember when you were saying that you think Carius is the better goalkeeper, but he's scarred, and that is more what the problem is. He's Nate Diaz, bro. One jab to the face, and the scar opens up.
Bust open.
Yeah, but
straight away,
he keeps coming forward, though, innit? He keeps coming forward. He's not chinny. He's got a good chin on him. He's got a good chin on him. You know, if you're fighting Nate Diaz, you're in it from the first second to the last.
Oh no! If you're talking about talent, I'm not comparing the talent, bro. I'm just saying Nate Diaz can be a minute into a fight and look like he's been battered for 5 rounds, but it's just one jab to the face and the scar tissue opens up. It's just how it is, innit? And I think Carius, when he plays, one little minor thing and that scar will just open up and it all comes back. I saw some of the mistakes he made for Besiktas, and it looked like the Liverpool final was just still in his head. He hasn't shaken the cobwebs. Do you get what I mean? It's gonna carry him around forever.
Before that Champions League final, he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad or anything. He was all right. He was actually a decent keeper. It's just that mistake that he made in the final is just it will do something to somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what it is? He never got. Yeah, he never got to justify it, and he shouldn't have. And it was good that we got Alisson in.
Let me stop you there, Drew. Don't you remember the friendlies? Do you remember? No.
What I mean is, vindication is more. You look at Mo Salah. Mo Salah knows it wasn't his fault that he had to come off injured in the 17-18 final, but that haunted him for a whole season. You saw when he banged in that penalty. That was a year's frustration coming out in that moment. I finally re-arrived where I was robbed of my moment, and I'm back. If we'd have been able to keep Carius in goal for a year, win that Champions League final, and he made a winning save, he would have been able to get over what happened in 17-18. But because he's never, ever been able to rectify that mistake, he will never, ever be able to get over it. Do you get what I mean?
I wonder if Carius was still here, would he excel and would his performance would be above what he did because he has something to prove now. He wants to have that. He wants to show that he's not a crap goalkeeper. He's a decent goalkeeper, and he wants to repay the heartbreak that the Liverpool fans have felt in 2017-18.
Nah,
But
because
he had that
still
chance at
trash.
Besiktas and he was shit.
Yeah. I was going to say the heart might be willing, but the body's not able. I don't think.
Look, I'm all for the redemption story, man. Like,
Yeah, and
Well,
a
we all are,
goalkeeper's
we
the
all are.
worst. A goalkeeper's the worst position to over try. It just
Yeah.
is. Like, you let it happen in goal. You don't over try. Then you come out and you flap, and it's, you know what I mean. It's not good, is it?
It's
But
like Pickford's in a
Okay.
similar place now, though, isn't he? Pickford, like everyone's saying, he's making all these mistakes, but he's still England #1. So all that's going to lead to is if he makes one mistake for England, he's just it'll shatter him that, and then we've got a Carius at Everton as well, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. So, guys, another name that came up from that defeat was that of Joe Gomez.
Yeah.
Again, another player I don't want to pile onto, especially because we've seen him at his best and we've seen how good he can be. So, Stro, I'll come to you first on this one. Joe Gomez, does he need to be taken out the firing line and sort of, I don't want to use the word bench or drop, but just literally taken out the firing line for now? And obviously Matip's injured, so it would have to be Fabinho who starts at the moment. Would you prefer to see that than Gomez continuing to play through his bad form at the moment?
It's a difficult one because you look at us last season, and for the first 7 or 8 games, I think it was, we struggled to keep clean sheets. And then Gomez comes back into the team next to Van Dijk, and we kept 9 and 11. There's something in that partnership. They thrive off each other. They're powerful, pacey. They can win any kind of battle, whether it's in the air, whether it's on the floor. They can both play out. They're both good with the ball at the feet. I've been going over this for the past couple of days in my head, thinking if I was in Klopp's position, would I take Gomez out and put Fabinho in? Would I play him through it? It's a bit of a difficult one, and it's a different one than what you would do with your goalkeeper, because you drop your goalkeeper, that's a huge statement, you know what I mean? Whereas you might be able to get away with it with a centre-back, especially with the way Fabinho played at Chelsea. But there's part of me that just thinks, I love Joe Gomez, and I know for a fact that there's a player there. He's going to be England's next centre-back for the next 5-10 years. And yeah, he had a bad night. I mean, my problem with it was the fundamentals seemed to let him down, like the way he just lets Watkins cut inside so easy instead of showing him down the line. But knowing that kind of mentality that Klopp's instilled into the team, it'll be driving him mad. And then you've got Verge next to him, like it'll drive him insane to know that he was at fault for a few of the goals. So I personally wouldn't drop him.
Fair enough. Biz, I want to come to you and ask you this question. So, a lot of times Joe Gomez is just sort of labelled as a player who's playing well because he's next to the world's best centre-back in Van Dijk. The same way Lovren, a lot of people said that he only played well when he was next to Van Dijk. Do you think as a team and as a fan base, we are slightly overrating Joe Gomez and almost expecting a bit too much from him?
I don't think we're overrating him. I think he's definitely one of the best central defenders we've had for a while. I think, as Stroh said, the partnership with Van Dijk when it's on form is superb. But I think Joe Gomez has been underperforming since towards the end of last season. Personally, I think it all comes down to like what Drifty mentioned before with the naivety, like, oh yeah, we're the best team in the world, we're miles ahead of everyone, we've won the league by X amount of points, we're the best in the world. And when you're an age like Joe Gomez or Trent Alexander-Arnold, that kind of like goes to your head way a bit too much than it would for an older player. And I think Joe Gomez is struggling with the fact that he's in the best team in the world, and he kind of like thinks he's going to breeze through a game, or being next to Van Dijk is kind of like your comfort zone as such as well. But he's struggled in games, especially during coronavirus in the lead up to us winning the title, where he's just been off the boil. Like when we actually won the league, him and Trent, they looked like they had a hangover for the next 3 games after we won the title, which they probably did, and I don't blame him at all for it. But at the same time, you've got a job to do, and it has transferred into this season. I think personally, he needs dropping, and he does need to get back to the performance levels that he was when he was getting the 9 clean sheets in 11 games. Fabinho and Van Dijk played out of this world against Chelsea. Regardless of the sending off, we'd have controlled that game for 90 minutes. We'd have won comfortably, in my opinion. And I just didn't. And again, I think it all boils down to the fact that Klopp's gone to Villa Park thinking we'll play this high line, we'll catch them on the break, we'll have all these attempts on goal, we'll overrun them, and it didn't work like that. And when you're playing a high line, when you let your man go, you've got to have the pace to get back with him, and that's why he plays Joe Gomez. Like Fabinho doesn't have bundles of speed with him, but I think him and Trent personally aren't playing as well as what they have done at points last season, and I definitely think about certainly playing Fabinho and Van Dijk for the foreseeable, especially with Thiago coming back in as well, and Henderson as well, because both of them you can put in Fabinho's position, in my opinion, and control the game. So I think that personally, that's my I don't think Joe Gomez is overrated. I think he's rated fairly by Liverpool fans. I think he is a brilliant defender, but I think he is certainly having a bit of a dip in form at the moment, which is starting to show now, especially that we're losing games and we're losing them. We've lost this one in the manner that we have done as well. It's kind of like highlighted like something's going wrong here.
Yeah. Drift, I'll come to you next. So you've quite openly come out and said that you think Joe Gomez is going to be one of the world's best centre-backs in years to come. Now, obviously, again, we use hindsight, but going into the transfer window, I think the main priorities, if you ask most Liverpool fans, were a left-back to deputise for Robbo and to give him some cover there, a attacker who can cover the front three, and we did that with Jota, and then obviously Thiago, who's just a world-class centre midfielder who just adds a different dynamic to the team. Another position a lot of people were clamouring for, especially after we sold Lovren, was a centre-back. Obviously, the goalkeeper situation's come up recently because of the performances from Adrian. Do you think we missed a trick there by not signing a centre-back? And do you think it will come back to bite us in the butt?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I agree. Apart from playing Fabinho at centre-back, which you obviously know I'm not a fan of unless it's the last resort. Everything Biz said was spot on. Like, I agree with everything, especially the age. Trent and Gomez are the two struggling the most in our team, and they're the youngest. Clearly, they're the ones who are struggling to not let it go to their head as much and to kind of, like, I don't know, like maybe not feel like you're untouchable. You know, like I'm not going to say they're immature, because when they speak and you see the way they act, they're clearly not immature people in their personality. But with youth, you just have a certain level of immaturity you can't help, and you only realize that when you get older. And at 21 and 23, they're just them who are champions of everything. Like, come on, let's be real. Like, when I was 23, I'm a humble person. But when I was 23, if I was champion of everything, I know the gas would have got to me. I know it would have. Who wouldn't it? You know what I mean? You can tell. I think the new offside higher line is kind of not playing to Gomez as well. I feel like he's better when he can see everything in front of him and then occasionally uses his athleticism. At the moment, a lot of his plays having to just chase back all the time, and he's not the greatest at doing that as well. But we definitely missed the trick, man. We did. I said to you when we sold Lovren, I know you don't rate Lovren, but he's still the best fourth choice centre-back in world football. Regardless of whether you rate him or not, he just is. No team had a better fourth choice centre-back than Lovren. I don't really care. I'm still going to defend him. I don't care.
But you know, it's Terry's channel, so if I get shut down off that comment, that's your
if we let him go, it has to be because we're buying a replacement. And I remember you guys were like, I don't really care as long as he's gone. And I was just like, no, I don't want him to go if there's no replacement. And it's Fabinho playing centre-back. Fabinho's already played 2 games at centre-back in, 4 or 5 games, including the cup. So we missed the trick, you know what I mean? And with Gomez being dropped, I agree. You know, I've said for a while Gomez should be dropped. But then I get a little bit of a weird feeling because then apparently the best striker in the league, who's Aubameyang, I don't know if Gomez took him out his pocket before he put his shorts in the wash. So it's kind of weird, isn't it? It's like it's a difficult one. Like Gomez literally had a 10 out of 10 performance and then a 3 out of 10 performance 1 week apart. And I guess that's inconsistency that comes with age. And remember, injury always stopped this form. This is kind of the first time he's ever played past an injury. And maybe he's even just struggling at his young age with consistency, because that's another thing you gain with maturity a lot of the time. He's like, wow, playing at this level every week, it is difficult, isn't it? And normally an injury stops me, but now there's no injury. I've just got to figure out how to keep being on it every week for the whole season. So he'll get through this. It's Rio Ferdinand 2.0. I've told you already, like Gomez is different levels. He's just having a bad patch. Man. That, and he's still hungover from being champions of everything at 23 years old. You know what I mean?
Hey, I've got a question for Callum and everyone. So you look at Manchester City last season. Obviously, we know why they lost the league, because they were just miles worse than what we were, and we were the best team by an absolute country mile. But one of the things that stands out is the fact that they didn't replace Vincent Kompany. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that Lovren's a Vincent Kompany-esque type player, but they had a hole at centre-back, which they didn't replace, which then meant they had to put Fernandinho at centre-back. I was the first one from a third eye view on Football Terrace. I spoke to you, man, about it. I give them all the smoke, because for me, that was Pep Guardiola's ego getting involved, like, oh, we don't need to replace him, we can do it my way, and it backfired significantly. We've then gone and done something kind of similar. Don't get me wrong, Fabinho's a lot younger age and stuff like that, but for me it's a massive trick. Like, do you not worry that could happen to us?
All right, so I'm going to jump in for this one. So I've got a little bit of a fear when it comes to Manchester City, and I've said this to Drift. So even though it looks as though what we've done is the exact same as what Man City have done previously, I don't think it is. And the reason I say that is because Vincent Kompany wasn't only just a centre-back, he was the dressing room leader as well. So you look at our team and you look at Man City's team. Now, in terms of talent, there's not much between the two teams. There's not much at all. But if you look at leaders from back to front, Alisson's a leader. Van Dijk's a leader. Robertson's a leader. Henderson's obviously a leader. Thiago's a leader.
Milner.
You've got Mane's a leader. Salah's a leader. Like, we've got so many leaders. Milner doesn't even start most of the game. He's a leader. So you look at the dynamic of the team. Yes, we haven't replaced Lovren, but we've got so many leaders there that, and again, I know it's kind of counterproductive because we just got packed in 7-2. But you look at that team, Man City don't really have many leaders. They've got great players, but no Kompany and Silva going now. Apart from Aguero and Fernandinho, De Bruyne, who leads by example, who would you really say is a leader in that squad? You wouldn't. There's no one that really stands out. Now, in terms of the fourth choice centre-back situation, in my opinion, I actually thought we would go and get somebody. I didn't think it would be someone extravagant, but I thought we'd go and get someone to be another choice. And not just because we needed someone, but because I think Klopp would have seen what happened to Man City and thought, right, I'm a potential Van Dijk injury away from having a bad season potentially. Now, him not getting a centre-back for me isn't wise. And the reason it's not wise is because Matip and Gomez are known to get injuries for fun. So when people talk about it saying it's hard for us to get a fourth choice centre-back, I don't think it is, because you're not going out to buy a fourth choice centre-back, because any centre-back you bring in knows they'll get ample amount of game time, because Gomez and Matip will either be injured or will need to be rested to avoid them getting injured. So to answer the question succinctly, us not getting a centre-back, in my opinion, was very, very silly and not smart business. I really hope it doesn't come back to kick us. But Ram, I just want to come to you. So obviously we've acquired Thiago, who hopefully will be back for the Everton game. Henderson should hopefully be back for that game as well. So just sticking on the topic of centre-back. So obviously Virgil starts, barring some sort of craziness happening over the international break. Is there an argument to say Fabinho should start? Because if Fabinho starts, you can slightly drop the line back. So I'm not saying to start defending on the edge of our box, but you can defend instead of the halfway line, you can maybe defend about 20 yards further back because Fabinho hasn't got that recovery pace. But because you have Henderson and Thiago in that midfield, you don't necessarily have to press as much because you have more of the possession and you have more of the control. You also have someone creative in the middle who can unlock potential defences. Would you say that is the right way to go for the Everton game, or would you still want to see Gomez start when you look at the pace and power of Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison?
I would have to go with the latter. I don't want to see Fabinho being used as a centre back very often. I think it has to be a last resort, and I do like him in that DM position, the kind of destroyer midfield that breaks play up, gets in those tackles and necessary tackles as well in the last ditch kind of ways. His distributions is pretty decent as well. So, and it's been working for us for like the last 2 years as well. So I don't like it when Fabinho is being moved out as a centre back because he's a capable centre back, but his best position is in DM, and there's a reason why he's one of the best DMs in the world, because we see it day in, day out. Him getting them challenges, starting the moves off. And plus if you put Henderson in DM, I think you limit the kind of abilities that he has as a centre midfielder. And I think he is as crucial as a centre midfielder as is Fabinho as a DM.
Brilliantly put, if you ask me. All right, guys. So the topic we started this was, is this 7-2 defeat to Aston Villa the worst defeat in Premier League history? So I'm going to go around the circle and ask everyone that question. And then I also want you to tell me why you think yes or no. And if you do think no, name your worst result and why. So, Biz, I'm going to start with you. Is it the worst defeat in Premier League history?
No, I don't think it is at all. I think it's the biggest shock because of the kind of scalp that they've taken and where they were last season. But to me, it's not the biggest defeat in Premier League history for me. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of one where I think is worse, but just from my standpoint as a Liverpool fan, I think it was one of those days where everything went wrong for us, and we have the ability to bounce back. So I think that, the one that I'm thinking of the top of my head is when United beat Arsenal 8-2. That was probably the most humiliating one. I mean, don't get me wrong. This result was humiliating.
That game should have been on after watershed.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's not the worst one for me. Biggest shock, but it's not the worst defeat.
Fair enough. Rams, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'd have to say it's not the worst result in Premier League history. I think that Southampton game against Leicester was just mad, and in front of your own fans as well, conceding 9. That's not great. I know people will say we're the champions and you're playing against a relegation team, but for me, I think it has to be Southampton. And give credit to Aston Villa. Aston Villa played their hearts out, man. They got some decent players. Before the game, I did actually predict that I think they'll challenge to go in the top half of the league because of the players that they've got. They've done some really, really shrewd signings with Ollie Watkins and obviously Matty Cash, who I know personally because of my dad being a Forest fan and how much he raved about this guy. And trust me, if I was going to give a prediction, I think he'll get an England cap this season because he's that good of a player. Yeah, because I rate him so highly. So yeah, for me, it has to be the Southampton 9-0 defeat. It's going to be the worst.
Fair enough. Drew, your thoughts?
First of all, everyone just wants it to be the worst result so they can laugh at us because they can't laugh at us. So let's just get that elephant out of the room. A lot of people, people are going to say I'm only saying this because of what happened to us, but I don't think the scoreline is always what makes a result the worst result. People just like to glorify things. I'm not gonna lie. The way we dominated Arsenal the week before was way more embarrassing than what we just received. In my opinion, the scoreline doesn't look like it, but during that match, we actually controlled for 90 minutes a group of human beings. 11 other men were inferior and had absolutely nothing they could do
This is why I love Drift.
Drifty.
No, real talk. But just because the scoreline is only 3-1, people will look at it and go, no, I'm not saying that was the worst result. That Arsenal defeat weren't the worst defeat. But what I'm saying is putting it into context. People will only look at the scoreline and then that will be how they'll rate the game. If you look at that 8-2 that Arsenal got a beating against Man United, they were actually men against boys in that game. We had way more the ball, but just kept making the same mistake against Villa. Do you get what I'm saying? There were even moments during the Villa game where we looked like we were going to get back into it. Then we'll make the same mistake again and be like, what's going on here? Lads, come on, man. What is this? Whereas other games, like what Ram said with the Southampton 9-0, they didn't look at any moment in that game like they were in it. It was just embarrassing. They were battered. They were all over the place. People just want it to be Liverpool. They just do. Man City got beat 8-1 by Middlesbrough about, 11 years ago. That was an absolutely shocking performance for Man City. Like, there's so many games that are worse than this. It's just the scoreline makes it feel like you should say it because Aston Villa should never score 7 goals past Liverpool. So it's the biggest shock. It's not the worst defeat. Come on, man. If you really want us, like even Man U getting pumped just 2 minutes before we went on air by Tottenham. That performance was way worse than our performance. The scoreline didn't look as bad, but Man United were all over the place. Do you get what I mean?
But the scoreline's just as bad. It's a 5-goal deficit either way, isn't it?
There you go. And we was away. Man United were home. That was on home soil. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But it's definitely not the worst. People just want it to be the worst. Listen, if you ain't got no haters, you ain't winning. That's why we got the most haters right now. I love it. Bring it. Like, it is what it is. We come up in every topic. I watched the Chelsea show and they spoke about Liverpool for like 5 minutes. Why are you talking about us? You know what I'm saying? Are you supposed to be talking about Chelsea? Do you know why? Because we went to their backyard and we pumped them. We're still in the mines. We're living rent-free everywhere. Let them talk, man. Just let them talk. Let them have it. It is what it is, man.
What are you saying we got squatters' rights in other clubs, yeah?
Squatters' rights, bro. You know what? It's so bad we can leave the door open, go, and we still get in when we get back. Squatters' rights, bro. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? We're going into the nightclub in trainers and it blatantly says no shoes, no cap. It is what it is, man. It is. Let them talk, man. Let them talk.
So strong.
And Thiago ain't even here yet, boys. We still got Thiago. Come on. Wait till they start seeing him piecing up 240 passes a game. They're not ready. They're not ready, man. Let them talk. Let them talk.
Dre, do you echo what everyone else has said? Do you think it's not the worst defeat?
I love Drift, man. Like, I just need to say that first and foremost, innit?
Big up yourself, man.
The thing is, like, so for me, the worst defeat is clearly the Blackburn Sheffield Wednesday result. Clearly the worst. Because no one remembers it. Joking aside.
I'm not going to lie. I was hoping you'd go in a direction with that.
Joking aside, it's the Manchester City 8-1. They got beat 8-1 at home. Put that into perspective.
Was it at home?
No, it's at Middlesbrough. It wasn't at home.
Was it at Middlesbrough? All right,
yeah, it's at Middlesbrough.
Correct me. Well, even still, 8-1
I've changed my mind
is an embarrassment. And more to the point, didn't they have like big superstar signings in that team as well? Because that was when they were starting to get a bit of money.
Well, yeah, this was under their first ownership. So this was Yeah.
This was after. Was it after the Stuart Downing era for Middlesbrough? Where
no, Stuart Downing was a part of that mauling.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Stuart Downing ripped up man. Like that might be why we bought him.
Alfonso Alves scored, didn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Downing actually got the first goal in that game on the 16th minute.
All right.
yeah. For me,
Didn't
it's
Alfonso
that one or
Alfonso
the
Alves
Arsenal
score?
one.
Yeah, Alfonso scored a hat trick that game.
Yeah, he's got a hat trick.
Yeah, he scored like 3 goals. all
I couldn't even
season.
keep a straight face. I meant to be hosting. I couldn't even keep a straight face with that one. Yeah, he did. He scored a hat trick that game. Go on, Stro.
No, I'm saying it for me. It's that or the Arsenal one. Like, I'm not being funny. They had you look at that Manchester United team that day.
But
At no point should they be beating that Arsenal team 8-2. I'm
Bro.
sorry, it's an embarrassment.
When you start reeling them off, you forget all the big ones. Like when City pumped Man United 6-1 at Old Trafford. Like that is a more embarrassing. That's a more embarrassing game. That's a bigger defeat because number one, it's your next door neighbours. You're at home. You're in front of a 70,000 seated capacity stadium. Villa Park's empty. To me. That's irrelevant. If we'd have lost at home, it'd have been irrelevant to me because there's no one in the ground.
Why it was me one?
But yeah, there was that. They were United were embarrassing. We did United 4-1 at Old Trafford a few years ago. Like they all reel off. There's loads of massive defeats like that. When you keep thinking about it, but people just. Yeah.
Dare I say Arsenal have been the ones who just been taking it from everyone over the last 10 years. No, they have. If you look at it. No, they have.
How many times have they come to Anfield and been bent over?
Yeah,
like, come on, we bend the man over regular.
Well, if you look at it, we beat them. It was 5-1. We beat them that season. We beat them 5-1 recently when Bobby got a hat trick. They've lost 6-0 to City, I remember. They've lost 6-0 to Chelsea. Was it 6-1? Obviously, the 8-2 to Man United. So, look, I get rivalry, and it's always good to have fun and banter. But for other clubs, when you're Man City, when you're Man United, when you're Arsenal, all these other clubs, Chelsea, I've seen Chelsea lose, 6-0 to Man City as well. For all you clubs, let's just put some perspective and let's not throw stones when we're in a glass house because we can all pick out results and of recent memory, and we can just say, look, this happened to you guys. But obviously, there are some clubs, Arsenal, for example, who it's happened to more regularly than others. So that's all I'll say on that. Because
let's be honest, everyone in this room right now, knows that Villa defeat. We can all say, "Rah, what happened there?" Like, come on, you lot was all thinking I was gonna be vexed in the post game. I just couldn't stop laughing because of how shocked I was. Of like, how on earth did that just happen? Do you think we got pumped 7-2 by Man U, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea? You would have seen a smile on my face in any capacity. Losing to a rival is way worse, regardless of whatever, because you were up for that game. That game means something at the end with regards to head-to-head, taking points off of each other. There's no way anyone can say when a smaller team gets a fluke victory, which, let's be honest, that's what that is. It's a fluke victory. Whereas you look at the Man U and the Tottenham game, for example, you're like, there's no fluke there. Tottenham are just better than Man United right now, and they just pumped them in their own backyard. It is what it is. Like, I could never take losing like that to a rival. So all jokes aside, when your rival pumps you, it's way worse than a shock decision against the lower team. Without a shadow of a doubt. Like, there's no way you can ever try and play it off like it isn't. Absolutely no chance.
And here's the thing as well when you look at it. No, sorry to interrupt. Here's the thing as well when you look at it. Like, Carl's just reeled off all them results that Arsenal have got. Obviously, DT jumps on the stream. So I did the match reaction and then DT jumped on it smiling like, bro, you look at them results, Arsenal's like the blunt that you just pass around them, man. Then everyone's hitting it. What are you talking about? It's absolute cheek of the man to jump on when literally they are the blunt that just gets hit by the man.
It's so true.
On that note, gotta say a massive thank you to everyone who's joined us in the chat. If you're a rival fan, if you're a Liverpool fan, thanks for listening. Love to get your thoughts on whether you think it's the biggest defeat in Premier League history or the worst defeat. Gotta say a massive thank you to Biz, Rams, Drifty, and Stro. Obviously, thanks to Terry, the football terrace. My name is Callum. You can catch me over at Coppish. And until next time, guys, we'll be doing this obviously regularly now. So look out for that Liverpool show on a Thursday. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed. See you soon, people. Take care.
Peace.